I am so happy to be here with you today, and I want to start by thanking Rutgers Business School for this amazing invitation into this awesome event. I love to be able to speak about this very topic. We spend a lot of time at Dentsu talking about the future of marketing and our new consumers, so this is very much an honor for me to be here. I'll start by telling you a little bit about myself, and hopefully the presentation will come up shortly. I'm Andrea Terrassa, and I am the Chief Operating Officer at Dentsu Americas. I am also the Global Chief Operating Officer for our global creative network, which is called Dentsu Creative. I am a proud Columbia Business School MBA, and a more proud Latina. Born and raised in Colombia, and in retrospect, Columbia Business School was probably a poor choice because I spend a significant amount of time explaining to people the difference about Columbia with a U and Columbia the country. So next time around, I probably should have picked Rutgers Business School. Anyway, as it was mentioned, I'm also an active supporter of women and minorities, particularly in the workplace and in my industry. And I work tirelessly because my hope is that I will be able to contribute to making the industry and the workplace a welcoming place for people of all backgrounds. I thought it would be interesting to tell you a little bit about Dentsu just to be able to frame our conversation today and give you context for what we're going to talk about. Dentsu is a global marketing communications and advertising agency. And what we do is we play in three big spaces. We play in creative, media, and customer experience and technology. We do this by going to market with 6 power brands: Dentsu Creative, iProspect, Kara, Tag, Merkle, and Dentsu X. There are 72,000 of us worldwide, and we sit in 146 markets around the globe. And our collective ambition is to be at the center of people-centered transformations that shape society. At the forefront of people-centered transformations that shape society. And what those words mean is that we believe that the power of marketing and advertising can bring together business results and growth for the sake of good. And what we want to do is inspire our clients to use their voice and to use their power to drive good in the world. And we feel confident that in doing this, they can simultaneously drive significant business results for their brands, as well as societal good for our world. Okay, we did all of this. See this pretty map? One more, please. Okay. So here you see a logo slide of our clients. We are so grateful for the clients that we have. They inspire us every day. At Dentsu, we work with 95 of the top advertisers. And what that means is that we are having conversations around this very topic every single day. That is literally what we do. And we're talking about how are we going to address these changes. And so I like to think that this presentation today is very much me welcoming you into what it looks like to live one day in the life of Dentsu. So let's kick off. So I thought it would be interesting to begin to talk about what are the things that we see changing in consumer behavior. So I brought some stats. Get ready, lots of stats today. 44% of consumers around the world intend to spend on items that are either splurges, experiential, or that are giving them instant gratification. What does that tell us? It tells us that they are buying feelings, not products. 75% of consumers want seamless omni-channel experience. What does that mean? It means that they want to move from their laptop to their phone to the store seamlessly. Interestingly enough, 25% of consumers will tell you that the experiences are not great. 1/3 of Gen Z and millennials will tell you that they are highly susceptible to brand switching. The days of brand loyalty are long gone. And 48% of consumers will say that sustainability factors into their purchase choices. That's pretty cool, 84%, right? There's hope, everyone. So with this landscape out there, the next question that as marketers we would ask ourselves is why? What is happening in the world that is making this behavior take place? So if you go to the next slide, we're going to take a big zoom out and look at what's happening in the global macro environment. And these are the trends that we find most relevant to driving consumer behavior. The first one is challenging economic landscape. In a post-pandemic world, we're seeing that 72% of consumers say that things like inflation, social events, climate change are affecting their purchases. We also know that there is a growing universal activism. 30% of Gen Z consumers will tell you that their purchase decisions are based on whether a brand is politically and socially aligned to their beliefs. What's even more interesting is 24% of them would actually boycott a brand that is not aligned to their beliefs. There is hope. There are great times coming. And these consumers, not only do they want brands to take a position socially and to have social good, but they want their purchase dollars to directly go to some of these societal good activities. So really interesting. And the other thing is, if you dig a little bit deeper on this activism movement, it's very beautiful. It's characterized by, yes, a demand for something better, but there's empathy and there's inclusivity. And we're seeing a lot of intergenerational inclusivity for the first time, which I find particularly beautiful. Globalization. This one's super interesting because post-pandemic, there was this belief that globalization would kind of backtrack and everyone would kind of, go back into their corners, and whoever said that was dead wrong. It has been the complete opposite. We are seeing significant globalization. We're seeing move of trades. We're seeing move of people. We're seeing move of capital and huge movements of information. The global internet bandwidth rose by more than 28% in 22. So we are seeing significant amounts of globalization in the environment as well. And the last one is digital enablement. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this one because it's really interesting and there's multiple layers to it. If you think about how people used to purchase products, they would compare product A versus product B. Do I like A or do I like product B? That is not how consumers are purchasing today. They are comparing experience of purchasing product A with the next best experience that they had. So what that means is if I am a Citibank customer, I am comparing my Citibank experience with my experience at the Apple Store. And actually, I want my Citibank experience to be as awesome as my Apple Store experience. Think about what that means for marketers. Think about the systems that as marketers we need to put in place to drive that level of experience that customers are demanding for. And if you're thinking that sounds expensive, it is. And the way that it's being done, it's to weave these experiences together, is through digital enablement. And so what we're seeing is marketers investing significantly behind digital enablement. And when you make big investments, what do you want? You want a high return for your investments. And if you're in marketing, that means that digital enablement and that experience has to go as far down the purchase funnel as possible to seal the deal and make you money. And that trace all the way through to commerce. What that means is we're seeing a new boom, a boom in business-to-business digital advertising. Forbes told us that in 2023 was a pivotal year for B2B, business-to-business, digital advertising, with sales clocking in at $15 billion. We also believe that this B2B industry that's behind this digital enablement will grow to the trillions very, very soon. So, fascinating. So that's really where we are in terms of the macro trends. If we then kind of zoom in a little bit into the US, if I could have my next slide, please. Here's what we see. And these are data points, almost all of them from data that we collect at Dentsu. Our strategy and insights team does this because this is what we do, we actually poll US consumers on a monthly basis. And we're polling for what is changing in terms of sentiment and what is changing in terms of perceptions. And these are the things that we are observing. Sustainability, common theme, right? 61 of consumers responded that they factor in how a brand speaks about sustainability into their purchase decisions. We also know that 71% of these respondents feel that brands are not transparent about the way that they're managing ethical business models and the way that they're managing environmental. So those are interesting because those are big numbers, more than half the population. Multicultural rise. This one's kind of cool. I think we have a lot of work to do, but happily, 81% of our respondents said that the advertising industry is doing a better job in representing race and ethnicity. So that's pretty interesting. Financial stress, and this is similar to the macroeconomic pressures we talked about globally. We're also seeing that in the United States. And while 2/3 of Americans consider themselves knowledgeable as it relates to financial matters, we also see significant levels of stress around topics like investing and also planning for retirement. The loneliness pandemic. This one's really sad and it breaks my heart. I don't even like talking about it, but we have to talk about it because it's important. And this stat comes from the US Surgeon General. 50% of American adults feel disconnected and feel lonely. And that sounds not only sad, but it's really big problem because we know that loneliness is directly correlated with mental health, and mental health is directly correlated with physical health. So this is something that if we don't get a hold of it as a society, will have a profound impact on the landscape of the years to come. And then last but not least, 8 out of 10 Americans will tell you that they are politically engaged. Most of these people will tell you that they engage on a weekly basis. And this is important from a marketing perspective because it means political conversations, political events, political discussions will be consuming a significant amount of the media diet, particularly as we move into an election year. And as marketers are thinking of how to target, they need to think that their message will have a harder time breaking through or that there will be sensitivities in what they communicate because we are so politically engaged as a society. Okay, so now we talked a little bit about what's changing in consumer behavior. We talked a little bit about what is driving that at a global level. And we also talked about what is happening in the US. So what is a marketer to do with this landscape? And that's the next part of the presentation. If you could go to the next slide for me, please. Thank you. So the future of marketing, I thought that the way to attack this, and in the most interesting way for this group, would be to do a little bit of a show and tell. So I'll tell you a little bit about our conversations with CMOs. At Dentsu Creative in particular, CMOs are our primary buyers, and we spend a significant amount of time speaking to them. So I'll tell you about what are the things that are keeping them up at night, and more importantly, what they're doing about it. And then we're going to do a little bit of showing. So I've brought some examples of what I believe is what we'll see more of in terms of marketing in the future, and hopefully you'll find that fun. If you could go to the first slide. We did a recent study at Dentsu Creative where we polled 700 CMOs across 8 major markets, and these are the findings. The first thing that is absolutely on CMO's mind is attention. They're making big investments in advertising, and they know that advertising is most effective when you have good attention, and it is really hard to break through. So what are marketers doing next about this? They are turning to entertainment as a major strategy. 79% of CMOs are using entertainment as a way to retain attention and hold on to that attention as far as they can down the purchase funnel. And I have an example that I'll show you, a marketer that I think did that really, really well. And this is important because what we're seeing marketers invest in entertainment platforms. They're investing in Netflix miniseries. They're investing in podcasts. They're also doubling down on TikTok. can't have a conference without talking about TikTok, right? And TikTok is interesting because we thought it was going to be a social thing, and it's absolutely not. TikTok is an entertainment platform that effectively ushers people into a commerce environment. TikTok sales rose by 72% in the last year. 72% increase in sales on TikTok. So when you see that funny hashtag, TikTok made me buy it, just remember in the back of your mind, there is a ton of money behind that, and it's an absolutely real dynamic that's happening. The second one, AI, and again, can't have a presentation without talking about artificial intelligence. And truth be told, we've been using artificial intelligence in the marketing environment for a long time. We use it in customer service. We use it for loyalty. We use it extensively for search and search optimization. But what we're seeing that's new is a significant uptick, and also our CMOs are becoming a lot more knowledgeable about how to use and implement AI. So, and if you think about one of the things that they played back to us is that there is this fear of falling behind. So a lot more digital savviness in our CMO community and a lot more investment of marketing dollars behind AI. Now, generative AI, I would argue, is a bit of a different animal than pure AI. It comes with a series of considerations, ownership, and a whole host of complications. But what is common is we are seeing marketers be increasingly curious and very bold in their experimentations with generative AI. So generative AI is here to stay, and we will see more of it. Third, thank you. Activism and purpose. This theme keeps coming back, right? It really is a thing. So we know that 69% of marketers have this burning desire to connect their business goals to what their brands believe and drive societal good. But not 69% of marketers actually act on it. Why? Because it's scary. It's scary. Like if you get your message wrong, maybe it'll come through as self-serving. Maybe you'll polarize a portion of your audience. And so what you're seeing is there's this desire to do it, and yet not a lot of action is happening. We are starting, however, to see a little bit of uptick in social good marketing. We have a consulting practice at Dentsu. It's called Social Good, and we're seeing an increase in our CMOs actually taking advantage of that practice as they pursue activism and purpose as part of their strategies. And I also have an example that I'll show you of where I think it was done absolutely brilliantly. And then the final one, misinformation. Isn't it annoying that I have 3 A's and then an M? I really worked hard to get that fourth A for you, but just couldn't figure it out. And we can't not talk about misinformation because it is a major problem on our hands, and it is a problem at multiple levels. But from a marketing perspective, it is now the job of marketers, on top of everything else that you've heard today, to make sure that their brands, their products, and their advertising is not a victim of misinformation. And as a result, they are taking very serious action on 2 fronts. First, a lot of work is being done around the topic of brand safety, making sure that the right measures and the right response plans are in place. But we are also seeing a lot of advocacy on behalf of both our clients as well as the advertising industry to make sure that we have seats at the table when legislation is being passed around things like privacy, ownership, and copyright. So I'll give you an example. Dentsu sits on the C2PA. The C2PA is the body that governs how generative AI will be legislated. We also sit on Meta's agency council, and those things, among other things that we sit on, allow us to advocate on behalf of clients as well as consumers for what we think is right in terms of privacy, legislation, and ownership. So those are the 4 things that CMOs seem to be most aggressively tackling. And with that, it brings us to the exciting show part of my presentation. So I have a couple cases I want to share with you. I absolutely love them, and I hope that you will love them as well. The first case is called Forza Canada, and it is for our Mondelez client. The brand is Fonzie's, and it's in Italy. And we had a problem. Our client was the sponsor of the 2020 World Cup, and Italy did not qualify for probably the first time in, I don't know, modern history. So what do you do when everything that you've banked on has now, poof, gone away? Well, I'll cut to the chase. We got very, very creative. And this is what we did.
Da, 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 da. Da, da. Di-da-ba-ba-da-dum-ba-dum.
Forza Canada!
Water spoon.
Water spoon.
Italia fuori, ma tifo per il Canada.
Mi avete dato la voglia, la forza, l'energia.
E consentimi anche di sostenerla con un Dai Canada, Dai Canada.
There will be no other World Cup like this.
Thank you. I love it too. It shows you anything is possible. And we had double-digit sales for our client with that case. But I also believe that we would not have been able to have done it if the stage was not set and we did not understand that globalization was a thing. I think a lot of people would have doubted the Italians are going to support Canada. Like, it really does sound crazy. And yet it was completely possible. And you likely saw digital enablement. And one thing that we didn't talk about today, but we're seeing a lot, is this use of positive emotion. Like, the world needs positivity, and positive emotion is something that we're leaning into and we're seeing clients lean into as well. The next case is for our client, KFC in China. And KFC had a major issue. Their store sales were down, their foot traffic was down, their sales were down, and they had a 16% decline in performance. Now, think about what a 16% decline performance means in a country the size of China. Like, you are in deep, deep trouble. Anyway, what we did for them is we actually did a study and we found out that yes, 1/3 of consumers are switching brands, which was an insight, but this was not the case for KFC. Their target audience actually loved KFC and they weren't changing brands. It's just that after the lockdowns in China, which if you'll remember were very, very severe, they just didn't want to leave their house. And so we had to find a way to go to the consumers, re-engage them, and bring them back to KFC as purchasers. And this is what we did.
This is not yet another metaverse idea. This is an idea that uses the metaverse to create an entirely new permanent retail platform for KFC in China. One that outsold traditional bricks and mortar KFC stores by 1,000-to-1. Introducing KFC Restore, the reinvention of the KFC restaurant experience for a new generation who lives, breathes, and eats online. KFC had a problem. Store traffic was down and business performance had declined by 16%. Why? Because the entire world has seen a huge universal behavior change and migration to online habits that has shifted the retail landscape forever. So what do you do when you're the brand who is most vulnerable to this change? With the biggest retail footprint in the world's most populous country, you re-evolve, and in doing so, reinvent the way that brands show up online. We created a virtual store experience hosted on China's most popular platform for young people, QQ, that wasn't just another brand turning up in the metaverse. We captured the cultural, sensory, and playful elements our Gen Z audience loved about the original in-store experience and heightened them to guarantee their dwell time. They could order food in the online world and have it delivered in the real world. They could chat with each other and a virtual Colonel Sanders, create their own avatar with KFC fashions, open their own store, dance and socialize with friends, purchase gifts, and play games. Restore doesn't just bring KFC to the metaverse. It creates an alternate, more relevant retail experience for the way customers now shop, future-proofing the brand and elevating the transactional nature of buying food online into an immersive, emotional, and personalized experience.
Thank you. Yeah, we're really proud of this one. And we had a very happy client. I'm going to repeat the stats for you because they're pretty impressive. This program outsold brick and mortar 1,000 to 1. 1,000 to 1 because of this campaign. What I also hope you saw is a significant amount of use of entertainment to increase dwell time, a significant amount of use of digital enablement that goes all the way through the purchase. You play online, you order online, and it shows up at your house, seals the deal on the sale. And overall, it's just a really fun, clever way of a marketer and their agency adapting to massive, disruptive change. Our last case, if you click one more, thank you, is a US case for our client, Crayola. Crayola believes that color makes the world a better place. How cool is that? Color makes the world a better place. And when brands believe so strongly in something and have that desire, it's such an amazing thing for an agency. And we were able to take this brand belief and activate against some of their social and purpose desires as a client. And we came up with this campaign.
Yes, yes, yes.
For the first time, there's a color in the box for all of our kids.
We want true colors that represent skin tones, right? It's not just a crayon. It is about feeling included, being seen, feeling valued.
And what about Daddy? Awesome. What about you? Is that you? Mm-hmm. And what about Sister? Perfect. Look at that. Is that our family?
Yep. I'm trying not to, okay?
I've seen this case over 100 times, and not once do I not get teary-eyed because it is so powerful. This case CAD Crayola sell 11.5 billion units and sell out. They sold 8 times what they thought that they would sell. But most importantly, they had a major call to action and a major conversation around inclusivity, which solidified them as a brand for multiple generations. Because it's hard to forget this level of stuff. This campaign also won what's called the Iridium Effie. Effie is an organization that gives awards for highly effective advertising. And they're called Effies. The Iridium Effie awards the most effective campaign in the world. So what you just saw is the most effective campaign in the world. And that is crazy awesome. Why? Because it proves the point that when we lean into social good, when we lean into the power of the things that bring us together, the business results will come. They sold 8 times what they thought. And I love this case. I love this case because when we at Dentsu say, we are at the forefront of people-centered transformations that shape society, this is what we mean. And this is what we aim to inspire and help our clients bring to life. Because we are the industry that speaks to more people than any other industry. The power that we have is huge as marketers and as advertisers. And the more work that we're doing like this, what it means is we actually have the power to make the world a better place. And that is why it is such a privilege to work in marketing and work in advertising, because you can make a difference and we can make the world a better place. So that kind of brings me to the end of my content for today. And I hope you've enjoyed it, but I really realized that I threw 1 million stats out at you. And I was feeling a little self-conscious about that. But what I really hope that you take away, if nothing else, from this conversation and what's changing in the consumer landscape is that, A, we have the power to change the future through marketing. So yes, this is a conversation of the future of marketing, but I hope you'll also take away that this is a conversation about marketing shaping the future. I also hope that you will take away that the one constant in everything that you heard today is that change will continue. And that this will be changing for years and years and years to come. And what we really need as marketers and what you should be thinking about as you move forward in your careers is finding a way to lean into that change, to embrace the change, and to capitalize on that change. And for me, that means 2 things. A, be curious. Learn everything that you can. Study consumer behavior. Study what's happening on the macroeconomics. Be curious. And then be creative. Like you saw us solving some crazy problems through creativity. My chief creative officer says that creativity is an unlimited source of energy, and I 100% believe that to be true. Last, if you are curious, if you could go to the next slide, please, and you're creative, I truly believe that you will be unstoppable. And that is my wish for you, for everyone in this room, for everyone watching this broadcast. Be unstoppable, because you can be. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. We're going to take 3 minutes of questions before you go, Andrea.
What you said about CMOs worrying about falling behind when you're talking to your clients really resonated with me, because it's one of the top challenges we see every time we're doing workshops with different brands. And I'm wondering, how does Dentsu view being that kind of trusted guide for the AI space for clients? Like, are there any things you're doing to help clients get up to speed? How are you talking to them about the technology? Because it seems like so many are so desperate for that kind of help.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of interest from CMOs, and we work extensively with them on education. We work on pilots. We actually have a technology center of excellence, which is doing all of our generative AI work. And just the kind of the hidden trick in having that center of excellence is we want to control the AI, generative AI experimentation, just because there's a lot of risk as it relates to, this copyright ownership, all that good stuff. So what we're doing is really creating that safe environment for our clients by having the Center of Excellence. And the Center of Excellence is helping us create some walled gardens where we can experiment with generative AI without necessarily pushing it completely out. Something that's been helpful, this actually might be useful to you, is we've actually segmented the use of generative AI in two ways. One is for like inspiration and concepting, which is safe because it doesn't actually get published out into the world, and it's a nice way to experiment. And then production, which is actually what goes out into the world, and that actually starts to help them like feel, oh, okay, a little bit more comfortable. I can play in space number one, my walled garden, without playing over here in the real world. So lots of things happening. What we're not allowed to do is give our clients legal counsel around generative AI. But everything else, we're pretty up to speed.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
We're going to take two more questions, one online if we have any online. Any other questions in the audience? Okay.
Hi, Andrea. Thank you for the presentation. It was really awesome. My name is Subodh. And I have two questions actually regarding the case studies that you showed. One is regarding the KFC restore. You mentioned that it drove up sales like 10,000 to 1, but that's through one of the digital channels. The problem still remained on the brick and mortar, right? Was there, in retrospect, something that you could have done to drive sales on both those channels?
To the brick and mortar?
Yeah.
Likely. I know that we have a lot of loyalty programs, and we do this for many other clients. The specific brief on this one was to really do it an online platform to supplement brick and mortar. So if you know, agencies were big about staying on brief. But yes, we do work with many clients to drive to brick and mortar, and we use significant loyalty programs to actually drive to in-store purchases, whereas redemption happens. But that was not the case here.
All right, thank you. And the other was regarding the Forza Canada. If Italy had qualified, there would have been some objectives that Mondelez were thinking to meet.
Yeah.
With this spin on supporting Canada, were those objectives met to some extent, or did you have to like imagine the OKRs that were set?
No, we beat the objectives.
Okay.
It was actually more effective than what they had projected in their original forecast, which is actually quite entertaining. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Double digit on the last game, actually. Yeah.
You said people are buying feelings and not products. Can you elaborate on that just a little bit, what it means for marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I encourage you to learn a little bit about System 1 and System 2 if you don't know that already. It's really interesting, but it talks about how we make most of our decisions based on our emotions. And what we're seeing is that consumers are more and more buying on things that make them feel, right? So there's a lot of spending on experiences. We're seeing spending on travel be very high, on food. So it's things that make you feel alive, right? And also that number of 44% of people will also be spending on things that are splurging. It's to give them that jolt of feeling of being alive. So we see consumers really chasing that feeling pretty significantly, whereas before it was more about accumulating stuff because stuff kind of gave you safety. So now it's less about that feeling of safety and more about that I'm feeling alive with my purchase. Yeah.
So let's put a big round of applause for Andrea. That was amazing.